I've been in dogs since 1991. We breed dogs that we want to train. I was out here in western Nebraska riding Harleys and training dogs. I don't sugarcoat anything, and if you don't like it, tough.
Welcome to another episode of the Flatliner Kennels podcast with Chris Jobman. We're doing a Q&A today. Do we got a bunch of them lined up here today, Chris?
It looks like a pile of them. So we'll try to get through as many as we possibly can here.
Right. I really enjoy, I learned so much from the Q&As. We're kind of in a mode here where we're flipping back and forth between the flow chart and Q&A. So make sure and listen to all the episodes. A lot of the questions we're getting some repeat stuff, and we can't just cover the same topics over and over and over again. So
yeah, a lot of noise. We have a lot of noise questions. That seems to be a big one. And I know I think Chris and I talked about it one time. I think I've talked about that in depth quite a bit.
Right. I need to go back through the episodes and make sure that everything we cover is in the description. So those of you guys are listening,
that might be a good idea.
Really, if it's the main points, it's in there. So make sure and check them out. All of it's such good content. Yeah. Listen to them straight through. Yeah,
for sure. But let's start with Pamela Norris. She has been all over the Facebook page. Yeah. We need to answer her before she sends out a hitman on me.
I know. I think that she made a comment that somehow I accidentally deleted or didn't get on there or something. But yeah. Let's do it.
And I know Pamela. She's from Texas. I've watched her run her dog. She's a very nice person. Let's get this out of the way before she sends a hitman to get me. Where's her question at? I know what it's about.
You gotta be kidding me. Where is it? Did I somehow leave it off again?
Yeah, it's right here.
I know that I put it in there. I think that the spreadsheet is.
It's right. I'm gonna read it right off of Facebook.
Okay.
So I'm gonna read it right off Facebook. So I do know she has a dog. So she says, "Pretty please, what to do with a finish level and title dog who counts marks?" This has an angry face right here, and this says. It's only on the third bird as is launched that she starts barking. Doesn't bark at quads or singles. We've done thousands of refusals, which means no picking up the birds, and have been consistent. Barks at the blind when we run interrupted triples, but not the marks. So I am so tired of talking back, and impatience. Thank you so much. And then I asked her today, I said, how old is the dog? And I said, is this the dog that you ran in Northeast Texas HRC on the water series I was at? So I was running Northeast Texas HRC 2 years ago, and she ran this dog as test dog. I remember that. And she says, yes, 5 years old, started noise at the line when we began running finished. The day you saw her was the worst ever. Typically, it's noise at the third bird as it launches. That's why she thinks it's related to counting. I do remember this dog, and I don't know if you hear the Flash Dakota puppies, but they're making noise downstairs. But I do remember this dog, and I will tell you, Pamela, I remember asking you, I'm pretty sure I did. I remember asking you, well, if this dog makes noise, why are you running it as test dog? And I think you said something along the line, I want to see if it's worse or better. I can't remember what you said, but something like that. But what I will tell you, that anybody out there that has control issues, whether it's line manager issues, whether it's noise, whether it's anything, don't run test dog. These dogs, and I don't know if this dog does this in training or not. I'm gonna do it right here. But if your dog has control issues at all, do not run it as test dog, because a lot of these control issues they're test. They won't do it in training, but they'll do it at tests. So they're test wise. So the only time they do it as a test, they're test wise. So if they're test wise, then why run them? Continue running them as test dog to see if it, because now you're running for absolutely no reason at all, pass or fail. You're just running them to running them, but now they're just getting an extra test under their belt and making it even worse. So if your dog is test wise, which this dog is test wise, don't just run it as test dog to hope for the best.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna actually ask her right now. Hey Pamela, I am Facebooking you. Comment right now.
There's another one that she wanted answered. Maybe we can hit after
that was. I think that was about
running through slots.
The Grand in South Carolina.
She was asked one about running through slots.
Oh, the slot one,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, so I don't necessarily know if the dog is counting. I would have to really see the dog do this. What worries me about this dog is it's 5 years old. That is very, very worrisome because now you've ran this dog so much and you've tried the putting away the dog, you've tried all of those things, and nothing is working. So that really scares me. But I do remember you running it as test dog, and it made the worst noise ever, you said on your post here, and you let the dog go get the birds anyway. So all of those, previous not letting the dog get the bird, before that, you destroyed that entire work by that one day of running test dog. Because you let it be crazy and then pick up a bird. No, I'm not picking on you. I'm just giving you an honest answer. Well, I can't tell you how to fix this because I don't know. One thing maybe if the dog does it in training. So if the dog does it in training, then you're going to really have to get, and we've talked about this in depth, you get physical with the dog, really physical with the dog and put it away. But it sounds like you've tried that and it's not working. If a dog does this in training, have you tried staking the dog out close to the line and let it watch dog after dog after dog after dog? And then when it tries to make noise, then you get onto it with a stick or whatever you got to do and desensitize this dog to the point where it doesn't even want to watch birds come out anymore. So it almost gets bored with it. That's one way to maybe work on that. I hate being so vague on this answer because I don't know how to fix this. And at 5 years old, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It may be unfixable at this point. I hate to say that, but there's some stuff you just can't fix, and there's just no way around it. And this may be unfixable. I would try to stake the dog out in training because really the best way to fix this is to pick the dog up, put it away. And obviously that's not working. So I don't know what to tell her, Elliot.
All right. Can we move on to her other one that I've got pulled up here?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do
that. So this
that.
question is related to suction. When running a blind, land, or water through a keyhole slot that is made up of thick trees on both sides, and the dog has just picked up a mark that landed on the edge of the keyhole, what's the best strategy to make sure your dog does not get caught up in the suction, open areas behind the trees, old fall, etc., and has momentum running through the keyhole, making progress to the blind without hiding behind the trees? Any training tips or strategies such as pushing the dog through the area of suction using a no hands verbal command? I find this doesn't work and backfires with my dogs. Whistle sit just before the keyhole, then a straight back cast, nonverbal or verbal. That's a lot.
So the only way to get good at this, and this is not just keyholes, it's anything. We see this at the kennel all the time when people come and train with us because we have hay bales everywhere. And we are constantly running past these hay bales or through keyholes of hay bales. And the only way if you stop them in front of that keyhole and try to drive them through there, you're not teaching the dog to do anything besides stop before a keyhole and cast through the keyhole. The only way to fix this and work on this is to constantly do it. And you have to let them run through the keyhole. And then when they veer off or whatever, they have to screw up. And then you have to get involved, call them back, cast them through the keyhole, let them run through the keyhole again. If they veer off left or right, call them back, cast them through and let them until they can run straight through it. And they know not to veer. That's the only way you can teach this dog to do anything. We do this all the time at the kennel. We run them past hay bales constantly. And if they, let's just say they're running the right side of a hay bale, and I want them to hug those hay bales real tight, hug the hay bale real tight. And then if it veers off to the left, once it veers off, it starts, getting off a line. Then you get involved, stop the dog, put it back on line, and keep it going. Teach it to run straight through. It's not really running straight through anything. It's more of a running past stuff. And once they learn how to run past stuff straight, like maybe it's behind the gun blind, and teach them to run past that stuff and go straight, your keyholes will be a heck of a lot easier. You can maybe try to put up 2 holding blinds 10 or 10 yards apart and a blind through there, and teach them to run, shoot through the keyhole. And when they run through the keyhole, if they veer right or left, you stop them, you put them back on line. And that is the only way to teach a dog to run straight through things or past things. It's just kind of like fighting a factor. So we teach dogs to run straight through handling, right? That's how we teach dogs to run straight, is through handling. We don't teach dogs to run straight by just rerunning things over and over and over and over and over, because they'll run straight, but they won't handle. We teach dogs to run straight through handling, and eventually they start fighting factors. So if you're got a crosswind blind, when the dog veers off and gives into the factor, you put them back on line. Veers off, you put them back on line. And eventually they learn how to fight the factor and they run straight. Going through a keyhole or running past things is a factor. So you have to teach the dog to run straight through the factor. Does that make sense, Elliot, at all?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how you do it. If you stop the dog all the time before the keyhole, like you're talking about, or give them a verbal straight back, which means you're stopping them before the keyhole, you're not letting that dog make the mistake of going through the keyhole and veering off and then correcting the mistake. You're trying to dictate that dog's actions by every step it takes, and you're trying to make a robot. A thinking dog are the ones that go through the keyhole straight and keep on their same line, and or they run past it behind the gun, or they hug something really tight. The thinking dogs are the ones that do that really, really well, because you've taught them how to think through that factor, and you're not controlling every one of their movements. So does that make sense, Elliot, on an amateur perspective?
Yep.
Okay. That's how you do it. You can't control their every move. You have to let them screw up. You get involved, teach them the right line. And it takes a long time to do this. And there's some dogs, Pamela, that are they're just better at lining than other dogs. There's some dogs that'll run straight forever, and there's some dogs that won't. And so you just have to work with what you got, and you have to do it a lot. And you have to be really consistent on teaching them how to do those things.
All right.
Next.
We got you, Pamela. We finally got you. Sorry about missing those.
Sorry about that, but
all right. Do we just want to go straight down?
Yeah, let's just go down.
Okay. Walter Brown asks, what are some ways to build memory in a puppy?
There's a lot of things you can do, and to me, it all depends on what kind of puppy you're thinking about. But I'm guessing he's talking like marking up marks, multiple marks. I'm guessing. You could do it with white bumpers. You could, start teaching a little bit of doubles. You throw one out to the right, let them go get it, bring it back. Then you throw that one out and throw the other one out to the left. And then now they come back and they look at that thing and they go back out there. A white bumper is like a target, and you can start using orange or using a little bit of cover. But you basically are teaching them the spot where to go. And when he says a puppy, I wonder what he's talking about. Is a puppy to me is a year-old dog too.
Mm-hmm.
You can, if you're talking about like a year-old dog, you want to teach a multiple. Run the memory bird as a single first, come back, put it together as a multiple, then make that your memory bird, and go get your go bird, come back, and now run your memory bird that you ran as a single. That helps build memory. a lot of things help build memory. You can do puppy training. I mean, you can do treat training to help build memory. I don't know what age of a puppy he's talking about.
Now, I actually
But to
know
me, it sounds
Walter,
like
but I can't remember how old his dog is. I'm guessing it's at like between the 6 and 8 month range. I'm guessing
6 and 8 months.
guessing.
Yeah. Well, I have to be quite honest with you. I wouldn't, if this dog's only 6 to 8 months, I really wouldn't worry about memory right now. That's a really young dog. I would worry about obedience, collar conditioning, force fetching, getting the basics down, doing single retrieves really well. I wouldn't at this point, if that dog's only 6 to 8 months, worry about memory so much. There's a lot of things to worry about right now, and marking memory is not on the highest priority level, if so to speak, right now, if that makes sense. So,
all right. Well, let's go on to the next one. Bruce Potter says training tips for marks that are hard for the dog to see, dark background or shadows, false horizon, line drive throws, tips for go as sent until you find the mark or receive additional direction, the dreaded handle on a mark, and timing of the area versus to the area. Timing of in there.
Yeah, this is a go as sent sort of deal. This is Bruce. This is a happens at the Grand. It's going to happen coming up. One of the toughest parts of the Grand is seeing every mark, because there's no attention-getting devices in the field. There's nothing for the dog to look out there, and typically we're in places with lots and lots of trees, and it's hard to see. It's hard to skyline the birds. So tips for marking that are hard dogs to see: dark background, shadows, false horizons. If we're training and it's a really, really tree background, and that's all that you have, we've actually done this in the Grand, and if you can't see it, you can't mark it, right? So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll put maybe some white ribbon on duck's feet and still throw that same mark. And people are like, oh, you're giving that mark away. Well, if we're training a spot the dogs can't see the marks, and that's all the place we got to train, if they don't see them, you can't mark it. So we put a white ribbon on there and teach them to look out there and see it. A good thing to do as well, if you've got a real dark background, if you have your choice of birds, throw Drake mallards. They're lighter in color. They're white on them. Hen mallards disappear. Mm-hmm. They are dark. They just disappear. I remember we were running a hunt test in South Dakota, up there, Mount Rushmore HRC, beautiful grounds up there by Dale and a client of mine, and Captain America Marsteller was the judge, and he's kind of famous on this podcast. You know that I'm talking about. Anyway, and he was one of the judges, really, really good. One of the best HRC judges around, and it's really tree because it's up in the Black Hills, and he had a really tough finished Marsteller test, and throwing these birds through the trees, and we were running a test dog, and it was really hard to see him. He's like, man, sorry guys. And I remember the middle mark was really, really hard to see. I was out there, max distance or whatever it was and finished. And I told Dave, Dave, that's really hard to see. He's like, I know, I can't really do anything. I got these birds. I said, put all the drakes out there. He's like, oh. I said, just put all the drakes with the middle bird. That way, every single dog in our flight has the opportunity to get a drake, not like my dog gets the drake and then Elliot, your dog comes up and gets a hen. Right. That's not fair, right? So he did a really good job of taking a little bit of advice, and he put the drake out there, and it gave every dog the opportunity to see that bird, and went much, much better than not being able to see it at all. So Bruce, if you have a chance and you have a really hard thing to see, just put drakes out there. That'll help. So when they turn over, you can see it. And then the tips for go as sent. This is a humongous deal. I do it all the time in the Grand. This usually happens with older dogs. It usually takes some experience. You can do no drills to teach that dog to, you send them this way, no here. Send them that way, no here. Go where I tell you to go. And almost like a blind retrieve. Dead bird back sort of deal. But we do this a lot in the Grand, and the dogs at that Grand level, at the go as sent is basically you've taught the dog how to fight factors, You've taught the dog how to fight wind, terrain, hills, and they run pretty straight. And we call them point and shoot models. And I'm going to tell you, it makes your life so much easier if you have a really nice point and shoot model, because you're not going to see every bird. It's not going to happen. And these point and shoot models basically run straight. They're a little bit more experienced. They know how to fight the factors. And we just line them up and we just talk to them, just like we're running a normal mark that they saw. We just talk to them and we're like, okay, good. Where's your mark at? Right there, right there. Good, right there. And they have so much trust in you. And these dogs are really optimistic, right? So these dogs, they're so good and they're really optimistic. And when you talk them into it, they're like, yep, there's a bird out there. He's telling me there's a bird out there. I'm going to go get this bird. I'm just going to listen to what he's got to say. I'm going to go straight and I'm going to find it. They're really optimistic and they trust you. And so you talk them into it, good, right there. And they start looking down and then they get that line. And then I set them on their name, which is, to me, is telling them, hey, there's a bird out there. I'm going to send this to. I'm sending you to this bird. You need to find it. And if you've got a really good point and shoot model, a lot of times what will happen is you can shoot them right into the area of the fall, especially if you have some wind. That really helps. You can shoot them into the area of the fall. And once they reach the area of the fall, they'll set up shop and hunt, and they'll find that bird. Mm-hmm. Some of these dogs, like Shaker, that dog I got, he's really good at pointing and shooting if I can get him in the drag back line. Because he doesn't run real fast, but he's super intelligent. So what drag back is, for those people that don't know, drag back is every time a dog goes out and gets a bird and comes back with it, that's the line. It's drag back. That dog is dragging that bird through the grass, and there's a line of scent right there. That's why you see a lot of these, mostly pheasant hunting dogs struggle with long marks and taller cover because they trust their nose instead of their eyes, because they hit drag back and they go into hunt mode way early. These dogs that are good at deciphering the information that they're getting on a mark, like Shaker, you can send him on a line. Now, he's not a point and shoot model like a Vader or Flash is. He's different. He's a point and shoot model that if you can get him in that drag back line, he will follow that drag back line. He'll basically back trail every other dog in front of him to that area of the fall and find the damn bird.
Nice.
It's the craziest thing you've ever seen. So there's two different type of point and shoot models, but a lot of, like you're talking about, these go as scent, they're very optimistic. You've taught them how to fight factors, and they'll go as scent. They'll go where you tell them to go. Mm-hmm. Not every dog is like that, but in time you can build that. And Chris and I Chris Aiken and I are firm believers in this. When we're training for the Grand or whatever, and even if we're in training, the dogs, let's just say we come around, we're doing a double or something, and the dog doesn't see a mark or whatever. We don't get all hot and bothered by it, because we know that dog is not going to. So we know it's going to happen. So we just stand up, and we're in training. We stand up and we point and shoot, and we talk them to the spot and we shoot them off. Now, if they go dead straight to the area of the fall, find the bird, great. If they veer off, so you kick them off and they run, let's just say you run, say so it's a 150-yard mark. You kick them off, they go 40 or 50 yards, and they veer off left, and let's just say they fade with the wind. We'll stop them and we'll tweet them, stop them, maybe give them a real low correction, or maybe just give them a no here. So now we're doing the no drill. No here. And we line them back up, kick them back off, send them again. Now they know not to go back to where they were just at, because we did the no drills. I want you to go straight. And a lot of those times, those dogs are run dead straight then and go right to the bird. So we actually practice that in training, because we do it all the time. It happens all the time in the Grand. It's not if you're going to see all the marks. There's just no way you're going to see every mark. It's just no way. So anyway, I think I answered pretty much all of that.
All right. Let's go on to the next one. It's your buddy Grant Hatch. Says, in FTP, how do you address flaring the line? One side sending begins. Well, actually, we just covered that on the last podcast. Yep. I heard adding more pressure to take those hot spots away, which you hit that really in detail in our last podcast.
I did. What episode is the Force to Pile one we just did?
I'll look it up.
Okay, Grant, listen to the podcast before this podcast.
Yeah, right.
FTP is Force to Pile. I explained that in detail on the podcast right before this one.
Right.
So
let me read the next question, then I'll get back to what episode that is.
I'm sure he's going to ask me the question tomorrow when he gets to the kennel. I'll just answer it tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Greg Austin says, most of us amateurs try to balance work, family, and training at a high level. How would you attack the week with a transition dog with only a couple of hours each day to dedicate to training?
I'm going to tell you, Greg, if you have one dog and you're in transition and you have 2 hours of training to dedicate every day, that's a lot.
Yes.
That's a lot, right?
Yes, that's a lot.
So if you have 2 hours to train every day, that dog's only going to train for at the most 30 minutes in one session at the most. You should have plenty of time to do what you need to do in 2 hours, unless you're driving an hour, back and forth. But that's still a lot. And if you don't have enough time, I would balance it out. Let's just say you're going to train 6 days a week, and then you can't do marks and or blinds, or your transition dogs. So you're doing pattern blinds. I would dedicate 1 day to marks, 1 day to pattern blinds or transition work, 1 day to marks. I would rotate that so you're not out of balance where you're always running blind retrieves all the time. Because that's what happens with a lot of amateurs. They don't throw a ton of marks because they got family and football and soccer, and little Jimmy's playing the band and the whole deal. So they run a lot of blind retrieves because that's easy to do. They don't need to set up wingers. They don't need somebody to throw. So that's what they do. But you have to be really careful of doing that. You need to have a really, really good balance. So it may take you longer to get to your end goal by rotating marks and blinds, but I think you're going to have a lot better end product by the time you get there when you do that.
Yeah.
But 2 hours a day is a lot, in my opinion.
Right. Unless it's just 2 hours of free time in an whole day.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you have 2 hours that you can dedicate.
I don't even have 2 hours of free time in a day, so
all right.
That's pretty good.
And that was the last episode on Force Pile was episode 14. The one we're doing right now is 15.
14. Yep. Hey, Grant, episode 14.
There you go. All right. I've listened. Hold on. Was this okay? I've listened to the noise Q&As on how to troubleshoot after it occurs, but Chris always mentions how it's better to not let it start to begin with. And we're talking about whining here. So what are things that we are unknowingly doing that can cause a dog to become noisy? What are examples of things we should avoid or encourage to prevent it from developing?
Well, I see it all the time when we start with the puppies, and then people start with their young dogs, and they're even at 8, 9, 10 weeks old, they get their puppies out and they start throwing birds and they start throwing pigeons and bumpers and tennis balls. But let's just say there's a couple, like you have a puppy and I have a puppy, and I'm going to have my puppy watch your puppy, right? I see it all the time. I'm going to have my dog watch your dog. And the next thing you know, my puppy starts barking at Georgie doing work, and we think it's really, really cute. Oh, look, he's so excited. Look how cute that is. It's not cute. That's where it starts. Right. That's seriously, oh, it's cute. Look at him. He just wants to do it so bad. And at that stage, you think that's cute. That's where it starts.
That's interesting.
That's where it starts. Or you're at a group training day, right? And your dog is in the back of your truck in the box or the crate or wherever he's at, or in your cab, and you hear that damn dog barking its head off at other people working, and you're like, oh yeah, he just wants to go so bad. No. That's unacceptable. That's where it starts. That's where that dog needs to have either have an e-collar put on him, and when he makes that noise, you give him some neck tickles and make him be quiet, or you put a bark collar on him. Because if you let that behavior go, that translates to working and hunting and hunt tests. And today I had a dog today. I was out training and I had a dog on tie out that, we were running the setup, and it was just, one of our young dogs just barking his head off, and because it already had worked, and it was just barking his head off. and she doesn't make any noise at the line, but I don't want it to start. So I put a bark collar on her, and that first mark came out. She went, and she shut up, and she never made another peep. There's no reason for them dogs, let them dogs do that and act that way, because that just goes right into their work. So when you see that as a young dog, stop it. You know, I think I told the story before on here. One of the best dogs I've ever touched, if not the best dog ever, Breaker, that I had. I'll never forget the day he come out of Chopper, and he's a Chopper son, and sometimes them lions can the genetics, they throw some noisy dogs or some vocal dogs, and he was a little vocal when he was ready to eat, but he wasn't at the line, and he wasn't in my backyard, just a little bit. But I remember, I'll never forget the day we did it. We ran marks with him, and he would run 200, 300, 400 yard marks as a young dog. I mean, he was 6, 7, 8 months old, run 300 yards. And I remember the day we started trying to be steady, you know, kind of holding him back and being steady. And I knew this was in his genetics, and I was kind of holding him back, making him be steady. And he started barking at the bird. And I'm going to tell you, he found out real quick that day that was not the thing to do. Mm-hmm. And it was not pleasant. It was not pretty, but I knew he had it in him, and I stopped it. And after that, he never made a peep again at the line or hunting. So never, but I stopped it immediately.
Set your standard early in the dog's life. Watch for the vocalizations and be
early. Yeah. Yes, early. Okay.
All right.
Let's see here. Hold on a second. Let me look at this one here. I read Matt Ward's question today, and I'll tell you what, this has got me stumped. Let's go ahead and read Matt's deal. Let's kind of try to talk through this. I may not have an answer for this thing, but this is a very interesting question here.
All right.
It got me stumped.
Matt says, my issue is it's a very, very well-bred female, 2.5 years old. Sire is 7-time grand HOF dog. Bitch 4-time grand dog. She trains and hunts awesome. I guide with her. She's picked up close to 1,000 birds in the field already. Steady as the day is long. Obedience is great. She just goes about her business and does the work. She has 1 master pass and needs 2 passes for her HC title. The problem, when we pull into the test, she loses her mind, pulls on the lead, doesn't listen well, jacked in the holding blinds, doesn't stay at heel to bucket, breaks on honor, gets whiny, goes from 10 to 100 on the jacked up scale. How does a guy go about bringing her back down to earth? She hunts with other dogs, is staked while hunting. I train with big groups. We set up mock tests. We're stumped. She's the type of dog that can fight through pressure and handles pressure well.
That's a crazy deal to me, Matt. That dog is 2.5 years old. Has already picked up 1,000 birds minimum. The guide dog, usually most guide dogs are absolute maniacs. They're not very steady. They're just maniacs. It sounds like this one is perfect in hunting situation, but I find that hard to believe. But it might be. But when it gets to a test, now it's like that. So I wonder what level of testing they're doing. If it's only 2.5, it's probably running finished at the most. It sounds like, to me, that's a major control issue. And I'm sitting there thinking and trying to get through this thing. It sounds like to me you need to have a lot more control on this dog. You need to establish basically dominance and control over this dog from the very, very get-go. But I find it hard to believe that the dog picks up thousands of birds at 2.5 and never moves a muscle when they're hunting.
But he did say it was staked out. Didn't he say it was the dog?
That's what he says. It's staked out. So, and here's the thing. So you're going to have to decide, Matt, what you want to do with this dog. If this dog is going to be a guide dog, then you may just say, hey, this dog is going to be a guide dog. If you want to run tests with this dog, then you're going to have, and you want to really have those high titles, maybe quit guiding with this dog and concentrate on the control at the tests. Then once you gain control at the tests, then go back to using it as a guide dog. That's a really hard thing for you to do. I understand that because that's what you do for, that's your dog. But it's really, there's very, very few dogs out there that can be a very elite, A1, number one guide dog and a hunt test dog. That is extremely difficult to do just because you lose so much control hunting and being a guide dog, picking up that many birds and being a test dog. And this dog is only 2.5 years old, so he's really young. She's really young still. You're just going to have to establish control, and I think you're going to have to pick one of the two for a while. If in my opinion, you're going to have to pick. Can you imagine what Georgie would be like if she was a guide dog, Elliot, every single day?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to pick. What do you think?
I don't know. I've never had an experience with guide dogs at all, so I don't.
Yeah, they can get really wound up and wild because they pick up so many birds. But I think what you're going to have to do, Matt, is hold a really, really, really high standard of control guiding to the point where you're going to have to do more dog training and picking up birds as fast as possible.
I don't understand why he needs to stake the dog out. If the dog has to be staked out while hunting, I don't understand. If the dog is steady enough to go into hunt testing, why is the dog staked out during hunting?
Yeah, well, that's just it. It may not be steady enough, and it's steady because it's staked out.
Right.
I think this is a 100% a control issue. I think you need to really, really put control on this dog, like a lot of control on this dog, especially. And if it starts acting like this at a hunt test, go home. It's not ready. I've used this analogy 1,000 times, like a 16-year-old in a strip joint. It's going to be bad. They're just not mentally ready to do a hunt test. And until they're mentally ready, keep them out of it, keep her out of it. Because I'm going to tell you, if you keep going this route, and if it's as bad as you say it is, you won't be able to run this dog at a hunt test at all because you'll lose complete control and they'll be completely hunt test wise.
Yeah.
So,
I don't understand is why is it like if you have, let's say, a HRC hunt test group simulation day, why does that not put the dog in the same amount of energy level as an actual hunt test? It seems like it's just the same. Is it just everyone's body language? Is that, I can't figure that out.
Well, here's the thing. It's the complete opposite. So people, if you're going to have a true mock, let's just say call it a mock hunt test. If you're going to have a true mock hunt test and you are going to do all this thing, you have to show up and it has to look like a hunt test. And everybody is going to have to run without their collar and all those things. Because the second, so let's just say little Georgie's sitting in your truck and let's just say she has line manner issues and you're going to set her up this day. You're going to get her, right? Mm-hmm. The second she hears a dog in the field go, because that dog got in trouble because it was set up as a mock hunt test. And so somebody in front of you corrected their dog for being test wise. The second she hears that, she's like, nope. We're training. You can't fool me. Already figured it out.
They're so smart.
I'm telling you.
It's all these little things that just these.
Yeah, they just know. They're like, nope. We didn't stay at the Holiday Inn Express last night. And Billy over there just got leveled. I'm done. Nope, I'm good.
I better have my manners on.
Nope. You can try to trick me all you want. I figured it out. It's not happening.
That's crazy.
And what we do a lot of times is when we go to the Grand or the Master National or those sort of things, our whole group is day one is the day you can do it. Day one. And because you drove cross country, you stayed at the Holiday Inn Express, you went out to Longhorn, you went, and they think they're going to a hunt test. Right. So day one, when we get there for a pre-training group, it looks like a hunt test. So our group is real big, and we run all those dogs. Most everybody runs all those dogs with no collar on day one. Because if you're going to get a dog for line manner issues, it's on day one. Because by day two, you've got a collar on dog, somebody does, and they hear that, they're like, nope, I ain't doing it. It's completely different. Everything's different about it. So that first day is when you'll get them.
Right.
Is when you get them. And then Sean McNally, have you gotten over avian water yet? I'm not sure I've ever gotten over anything at the Grand yet. So,
when was that? There were some people trying to talk about when.
well, Avery water, it was banded water that was the hardest one in the hunt test in HRC history. And that was in South Carolina. I want to say 18, 19, somewhere in there. And the reason why that was so hard, it was a really hard setup. But what made it really hard was that wind coming off that big lake. Let me ask Rhett right now.
All right, while you're asking him, you want me to read the next one and we can kind of double up
Sure,
here?
Sure.
This is kind of another whiny issue a little bit, but it's on the line. It's a little different. My son has this is Joe Hayes. My son has a super nice dog that has two passes away from HRCH, but she is super whiny on the line, not barking, just gets so excited that almost sounding like she's getting e-collar corrections, but she's not. She has grand potential, but this is standing in the way. Any ideas on fixing?
Yeah, this is just like, and I think I answered him today. I said, hey, go back to some of our podcasts. Right. We've talked about this in depth.
Go back in.
It's just so hard to fix. And Pamela's got this problem, and there's so many people that got this problem. I think, and I'm not going to tell you how to fix it. You can go back and listen to a lot of stuff because there's no way to, there's not one certain way to fix this. The biggest thing here, guys, is don't let it start. Mm-hmm. Don't put your dog in a situation that's mentally not ready for because everybody's in a damn hurry. That drives me insane. If they're not mentally ready, then who cares they're not running finished at 2? Wait till they're 3. What's the rush? So let them mentally grow up. So, Joe, I'm sorry I'm not going to answer that. It's somewhere you go back to listen. We've beat that dead horse to a pulp.
Yeah.
Back in the
and definitely in the ones. Titles you will see. I'd say the most extensive one was episode 3. The second one with Chris Aiken would be the most extensive talk about.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot.
About whining dogs, for sure.
Yeah. I got one here. I just saw it on our Facebook page. It's not on this deal. Okay. Jason Thompson, good friend of mine in Klein, owns Ozzy. Ozzy's, man, he's a bad mamma jam. I'm training right now. But he says, and this is a really good one. I want to talk about this one. He says, if you only have, because a lot of us only have one, a lot of people have one friend that you would train with, a training partner or whatever. So this one here says, if you only have one bird thrower available and no wingers, how would you approach marking setups to challenge an advanced dog? So you have one person throwing for you, but you don't own any wingers. Well, Jason, go get a paper route, buy some wingers. But if you don't do that and you only have one thrower, do a lot of, and you want to, let's just say you want to work on some memory a little bit, So do a lot of like poison bird type stuff. So throw a mark, run a blind, come back and either have that gunner hidden and then go get that mark or have the gunner walk off. So, and what I mean by that is, now we're talking advanced dogs here, the Aussies and stuff of the world. So what I'm talking about here is throw that mark, go run a blind. And you can either come back and have the gunner hidden or stand out and go pick up that mark. Then maybe, or you can do it like this. This is really tough sometimes. Put up multiple holding blinds throughout the field. So like you're going to run singles off of multiple guns, okay? And throw a mark out of one holding blind. Let's just say at 2 o'clock. Throw a mark out of that holding blind at 2 o'clock and throw that to 12 o'clock. Run a behind the gun blind. Now, when that dog is coming back with the blind, have the gunner, the thrower, walk to another holding blind at, let's just say, 10 o'clock and have him stand up so the dog can see your thrower standing up. It still hasn't picked up the bird at 2 o'clock. Right? Mm-hmm. You're following me, Elliot?
Yeah.
Now, with you have all that suction of that person standing up right there, that dog he's just staring at him, but you still haven't picked up 2 o'clock, send that dog on the mark that's at 2 o'clock. Mm-hmm. and see if it remembers that mark, doesn't run back to the blind that you just ran, and doesn't run over by where the gunner is at because of the suction of the gunner. See if it remembers that mark at 2 o'clock. And this is a really good opportunity for an advanced dog to do, we talked about earlier, the go with scent, the no-no type deal. If you kick that dog off, let's just say you send that dog to the 2 o'clock bird, but the dog runs over to 10 o'clock because that's where he thinks the bird's at, because that's where the gunner's standing now, right? No, here, get in here, maybe walk forward a little bit, kick the dog off. And let's just say it goes out and gets a bird, great. If it goes out and gets a bird, great, perfect, you won. But now let's just say the dog runs back to the blind. So it's already ran at the gunner where it didn't have the bird. Now it's running at the blind. And now you want to still go to 2 o'clock. No, here, get in here. Maybe he'll walk forward just a little bit more, kick the dog off to 2 o'clock. Now you're really working as scent. Go where I tell you to go, not where your impulses take you. Does that make sense?
Yep.
There's all kinds of stuff that you can do. Use your imagination. Those walk-off singles with a gun, just walk off is fantastic. Like you could put like a semicircle of holding blinds around you, like 4 of them, 9, 2, 10, 9, 10, all the way around you. I can't remember the numbers right now. I'm tired. All the way around you. But you could throw your mark from at 3 o'clock, throw it right to left. Don't pick it up. Have that guy walk to the 1 o'clock and stand there, and now go pick up the one that was thrown at 3 o'clock. And you just those walking singles coming all the way around. And you can use all kinds of stuff. Cheating singles. If you have one thrower and you want some challenging setups, run some really nasty cheating singles. I mean, you got one person out there that can just rethrow them over and over and over. So
yeah, that's a great question. That is.
It is a really good question, and I'm going to tell you that you can really work as that go as scent we talked about with one thrower. You can really work on that because that's really all you have, and you're working on memory at the same time.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna re-listen to that answer because I've got 2 guys, almost 3 that I train with, but a lot of times it's me and one other guy, and so that is fantastic.
Well, here's the thing too: if you only had one person, just buy 2 wingers, right? So go buy 2 wingers, put electronics on them.
Yeah.
And if you have one person throwing, you can just throw delayed triples. It's so easy to do. Have your one thrower. Let's just say you want to work on a long punch bird. That's what you want to work on. You want to work. Your dog is struggling on a long punch bird. So let's just say, LA, you have your thrower walk out to 12 o'clock. And you're going to have a mark at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. And have him walk out to 12 o'clock, throw that mark left to right or however you want to do it, throw that out there, and have him sit down and then turn to 9 o'clock, throw a winger bird out at 9 o'clock, go pick up that bird, come back, turn around to 3 o'clock. Now go 3 o'clock, throw that bird out of a winger, go pick that up. Now come back, look at 12 o'clock, look out there, talk them into it, and kick them off. And then if they get offline at any point in time or they need help, you have one person out there to help them. That's all you need.
Yeah.
So that's all you need.
Good stuff.
So, yeah, you can do a lot of stuff with one person. You just got to use your imagination.
Yeah.
Go with scent stuff is works really good at that stuff.
Can I ask you a question of my own?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be
No, you cannot.
well, I'm trying to be courteous here. So I'm trying to be a lot more strict and hold Georgie to a higher standard on train on the hunts this year. So when you're hunting your dogs and let's say you've got a bird down and you know the area it's in basically, but you don't have a little orange stake to let you know where it is. So the blind almost becomes like you need them to break some of your rules because you have to get them in the area and then just let them wildly hunt. Is that just what you do? And you're just like, well, I just have to do it.
Well, yeah. If you have you got to play the wind. I do it all the time. So if you have let's say you have a right to left wind and you mark that bird down and you do the best you possibly can to mark that bird, the line of that bird. You don't really know the depth a lot of times. You just know the line. So if that bird falls at, right around 12 o'clock, right, and you have a right to left wind, I would send that dog at 11 o'clock.
Okay.
and I would keep that dog on the line to 11 o'clock as much as possible and fighting the wind. So if it starts to fade to 10, stop them, put it back at 11. It gives you a cast refusal. It's just like your training. Stop, recall, correct, handle, put back online, and you stay as much as you can at 11 o'clock. And let's just say you think it landed out there at 100 yards, and you're going past it. Now that dog is around 150 yards, right? So obviously and you did a really good job of correction and keeping that line, and you stayed downwind of that bird where you thought it was at, but it never found the bird. So obviously that bird wasn't from 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock because she'd have smelled it, right? Yeah. So now you call her back, almost to you, 3/4 of the way to you. Now handle her to 10 o'clock. Yeah. So it's got to be left of the line 11, right? So then you just keep that standard. When you start handling, you just keep that standard of cast refusals. And let's just say that you send her at 11 o'clock, and she gets out there when you think that bird's at like 12, the line of 12, but you send her 11, and she takes off, and she hit bird scent, and she goes hauling butt over, and she picks it up way over at like 1 o'clock. That's not her fault. Yeah. You're good. That's fine. Yeah. But what I wouldn't do is when she starts doing that, making her stop, and you're going to sit, and if you want to do that, go by all means, go for it. But you better be willing to make her stop. But that's why I always say hunting deteriorates training, because you're going to get into those situations that you can't control. Yeah. It's impossible. Yeah. We do it all the time on the river up here. I'm constantly sending a dog 200 or 300 yards across the river on a line that we think the birds fell into the trees on the south side of the river, and we just poke them up in them damn trees and hope for the best, and they'll come out with a bird. Yeah. That's all we could do, But you've got to hold your standard really high until you think they're gotten into that area. You can't get into a bunch of cast refusals, because if you're trying to hit at 11 o'clock and they get a bunch of cast refusals, they go to 9 o'clock, you're not going to find it anyway. Yeah.
One thing Georgie's not near the team player on blinds and hunting as when we're training. She wants to go into hunt mode way quicker. And also there's way more thick cover right off the bat than what she's used to. Yeah. And do you think that I need to kind of maybe either during the hunt or at the end of the hunt, set up some blinds and just run some?
You can, but I really wouldn't. I mean, that's the whole thing of hunting deteriorates training. There's nothing you can do about it. I mean, there's just nothing. I would leave hunting and training. And if you're bored, go right ahead. But that's where we get a lot of these dogs back from hunting season, and they're popping all the time. They go about 40 or 50 yards and they pop, and because they're so used to picking up birds at 40 and 50 yards, that it's just that's where it just kills.
She wants to go into hunt mode on her own so much more quickly.
Oh yeah.
And
here's the thing: but in hunting situation, if you blow that sit whistle and she doesn't stop, she's just running around in hunt mode. You need to get in her butt, because she still has got to stop and listen to you.
She's doing that great. The callback whistle she's been real sloppy on.
Good.
But she stops and the sit whistle's fine. She's got the sit up.
Yeah, when you recall her, she probably starts immediately going into hunt mode.
Yep.
Yeah. And that happens in training all the time. So that's why a lot of times in training, sometimes I'll give a come-in whistle. But if I want the dog to come in, like come back to me and restart, I'll just go, here, come here, here. Now, I won't scream at them like I'm super mad, but I got to yell loud enough so they can hear me. Because when they hear me say, here, get here, that means get to me.
Okay.
Because a lot of times, just like you and I or whoever else, you're running a blind retrieve or where you'll stop them close to the stage and you go, tweet, tweet, and they'll pick up the bird, right?
Yes.
So when you try to do that and you go, tweet, 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 they instantly go into hunt mode and they start wandering all over hell, and they don't come straight back to you. They go to left and then they go right.
That's exactly
right. You're so out of whack, you can't even handle them. You're like, God dang it.
Yeah.
And so what I usually do, what I do is I have a come-in whistle. That means that's pretty serious. So what I'll do is I'll go tweet, 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 really loud with collar pressure.
Right.
That means I won't go tweet, 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 tweet. I go tweet, tweet. I'm like, that means come to me now.
Okay.
I hate yelling. I don't like the looks of it, the sounds of it. I don't like,
yeah.
I hate doing it. It drives me crazy.
Me too.
But sometimes you have to. But I kind of have a come-in whistle that's kind of like, hey, listen, you get your butt in here.
Okay.
I mean, so.
That was very helpful.
Yeah, good.
All right, we want to hit some more? How much more you got?
Yeah, let's go a little bit.
Right.
Let's do what have we done some of these?
I don't think so. They're older ones. We've done all of the new posted ones we've done. Now we're into the list that these are somewhat older, but we haven't done any of these.
Okay, let's do 3 more.
Okay, this is
and I gotta go back.
Eric Brand. What are your go-to drills that you do every year with your finished master dogs when they return after spending time winter hunting? Do you do ABC drills? If so, what is your setup for them? And I will say also, there's another episode, like I think it might be like episode 1 or 2, where I'll look and see what the title is. But you did a whole podcast on what to do coming right out of.
I did. I do like to do ABCD drills. The biggest thing when they come back into hunting is you got to get your control back. You have to get casting into the wind back. You have to get all those things back. And you have to almost shut their nose off. So if you do a lot of pheasant hunting, especially a lot of hunting like maybe Georgie does, or the bird falls into cover and they go into hunt mode. Where we hunt, and you'll see this, Elliot, over Christmas when you come, our birds are typically floating in the river.
Right.
They're floating down the river. So our dogs have to deal with the current, and they can't be cheating, and they got to deal with all the mass number of decoys. Our hunting's a little bit different. Our hunting is a lot sight-driven. They see it, and they go get it. Where your hunting is more cover.
Yeah, smart weed.
They get in there, they dig it out. It's a completely different deal. So a lot of the guys that hunt in the higher cover, like you do or whoever else does, rice fields, that sort of thing, has some cover in it. You almost have to get to the point where you're teach them to shut their nose back off and run to where their eyes are at. And the ABCD drills are really, really good for that, fighting the factors, go to that spot, now find the bird, that sort of thing, and getting your control back. So,
and it was episode number 2 is called Preparing for Spring Hunt Test Season. So
I got you.
I
have a question here that I wanted to get to, Elliot. Let's do this. I want to do this. Let's do this. There's a question on the podcast. It's by Ralph Bartley. I don't think it's on our sheet.
I'm missing all these. I'm trying.
Question for the podcast. It says here, have a dog with 2 finished passes. When running HRC tests, the swinging with the gun, it has made the dog want to creep. Do you allow them to move with the gun or sit them towards the middle bird and have them solid there? Any thoughts would be appreciated. I know exactly what he's talking about here. He's talking about you're on an HRC test. Do you want your dog, when you swing with the gun, do you want your dog sitting perfectly still and turning its head and not moving its body and turning his head and just seeing the marks? Or do you want your dog to turn with you with the gun? So if you've got to go to 9 o'clock, it turns and comes around. You got to go to 3 o'clock, it turns. You hear what I'm talking about, Elliot? On this deal?
Absolutely.
So this is a conundrum to me. So when I first started out training, I did all kinds of bucket drills. I wanted that dog to spin with me and go back and forth and spin in a circle. I wanted to do all that. Then I got to the point where now, hey, my dog's moving too much. So then I went to a phase of I want the dog to sit there perfectly rock steady, just turning their head. Now I'm back to the dogs can move a little bit with me, but not too much. And here's why we're back to that. For some reason, the geniuses of the HRC judges in the world have loved to go, dude, they love to do this. And they're doing it to get the dogs to move. They love to go first mark out 3 o'clock. Second mark out, and you have a left-hand healing dog, right? So first mark out 3 o'clock. Second mark out 9 o'clock. All the way 180 degrees. then the next mark out maybe back to 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock. So if you have a dog that just sits there and turns its head, it's really, really hard. If that dog's sitting perfectly at heel, it's really hard for that dog to look over your lap and get a good look at the 3 o'clock bird. And then now all of a sudden you've got to turn to 9 o'clock, and now you have to wrap yourself around the dog kind of with the gun, because you don't want to go over top of its head and hurt its eardrum. So now you're trying to wrap yourself around the front of the dog so the dog can see all the way over to 9 o'clock, right? And then you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And that's so hard to do with a dog that just sits there perfectly, because it's hard when you get a test like that. Those dogs that don't move, because you've taught them not to move, they won't move with you, so they have a really hard time of seeing all the marks. And then you have the dogs that when you do that and you turn them, they're moving all over hell, and now they're creeping and moving, and that's why the judges are doing that, to see if your dog will move. So what I've done now is I'm a real big stickler on a dog heeling back with me. So when I turn to the left, I want that dog backing up with me. So let's just talk about this. Let's just say we have a 3-9-1 triple. First mark is out at 3 o'clock, right? So what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to point my dog at 1 o'clock. I'm going to point that dog at 1 o'clock. I'm not going to point it at 3 o'clock. I'm going to point it at 1 o'clock or even 12 o'clock. So that first mark comes out at 3 o'clock. And all that dog has to do is turn its head just a little bit, and it sees the entire fall. Right? You with me?
Yep.
Now, when 9 o'clock gets thrown out, when I turn to the left, I want that dog backing up with me. Not forward. I want it backing up with me a little bit, and I'm not going to overswing and exaggerate that, because if you exaggerate that and go way to 9 o'clock, now that dog is all the way almost behind you now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, in order to get that dog to go back all the way back up to 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock is a huge movement. So when I go from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock, I want that dog backing up with me a little bit, backing up. Shoot that mark, and it sees the 9 o'clock bird really well. Then all you have to do is when you pull back to the right, back to 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, all you do is go here, 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 and it looks back over there, and it's without a huge bunch of movement, and it sees the go bird really well without moving a ton. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's really hard to do. And I keep talking about Shaker. He'll and Red, Georgie's brother, they sit there, Elliot, and they do not move their front feet. They just will not do it. They're so steady, which is a great thing. But the problem is with some of them dogs is when you have these humongous swings, it's really hard to get them to see all the marks. And the hardest one to do is when they go 9-3, and HRC judges, if you hear this, just plug your ears. 9-3-10. So you go from 9 o'clock and you're pulling to 3 o'clock. Now that dog pulls, now it's coming towards you because it has to see 3 o'clock. Now all of a sudden you've got to turn all the way back to 10 o'clock, and the dog has to back up to see 10 o'clock. So if that dog creeps in front of you from going from 9 to 3, if it creeps in front of you because you're pulling it, right? It's got forward movement. Now it's creeping, and now you've got to get that dog all the way back to 10 o'clock. You know how hard that is?
Yeah, right.
That's really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So my biggest thing, it's easy for the dog to pull left to right. A left heeling dog, it's easy for a dog to pull left to right. It's hard for a dog to go right to left. So I really work on the right to left because I can always start my dog off to the right.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's easy to pull right. It's hard to go from right to left and have that dog suck back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I work on that. I did it today. I did it today. That's what I worked on today, was going right to left a little bit. So in the comments of Ralph's question. Steve Kelly asked, do you do any lineman or drills? Lardy Ray Vogt has a good one. I don't, Steve, I don't do any linemen or drills, quote unquote drills. These dogs, linemen or drills, quote unquote drills, start from the very beginning. When we start studying this, we harp on it. Now, we do have some dogs that move around. We just can't stop. That's just how they are. But we don't necessarily say, hey, today we're doing linemen or drills. We just come out and we try to keep a really, really high standard in training all the time, no matter what. And that is, quote unquote, our linemen or drills. We just don't have set drills to do. I would much rather focus my attention on running marks and blinds and concepts. And when we do that, we just hold a really high standard at the line during those concepts and during those training sessions. That way we're not focusing on linemen or drills when I think our time could be spent in better places. Mm-hmm. And you can do, if you want to do linemen or drills, you can, throwing birds over, and we throw birds over our head. We throw them in our face, and they're technically not drills. It's just part of the setup.
Yeah.
So I just saw that on there that wasn't on our sheet.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one for sure.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think we'd be done.
Yeah, I think we hit a bunch of them. Those are good ones. Again, join us on the Facebook group, Flatlander Kennels Podcast, and that's where there's a lot more discussions that are popping up. So the group is growing, and you can ask your questions over there, and we'll try to get to them at some point in time. So thanks for spending all that time answering those questions. It's very helpful for all of us trying to learn, Chris.
Yeah, not a problem. It's going well. I like the questions. I like the interaction. Everybody keep it up. Share it with your friends. And I guess my next thing is the HRC test this weekend, then the Grand, and then the National. So we'll record a couple times. We'll record in a couple weeks. So
yeah, when is the Grand? When is the Grand again?
It starts, I believe it starts October 14th.
14th. When do you arrive?
I leave here on the 7th. I leave here on the 7th for Paducah, Kentucky, and we'll pre-train with our group for 5 days, and then we'll start that. And then I'll move over to probably my buddy Aikens, and we'll probably train there for a little while in Jonesboro, Arkansas, before heading to the National. And then I'll be gone for about a month. So
great. Well,
it's go time right now.
It'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Sure. Yeah, first it's always something,
right? For
sure. So anyway, all right. Thank you, Elliot.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. See you at the line. Take that aim.
Gotta strike this chord with the humble hearts, bearing heavy chains and blue collar scars. Inevitably, you're gonna get the way. If you don't take that fight, take it to the grave.